think that LeBron James just might be the greatest stat sheet stuffer we've ever seen. I think as a stat machine, I think he's beyond Michael Jordan. I think he will eclipse Michael Jordan in every statistical category. But you know and I know, it doesn't matter. We don't care. We all accept that. We accept he's the most talented player by far in today's game. Talent-wise, he's probably beyond Michael Jordan. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, a little stronger. But so what? Because he's the un-Jordan, obviously, when it comes to clutch time, to winning time, as Magic Johnson used to say it. And to me, I'm back to my new expression. Not amnesia, it's Lebresia. The LeBron idolaters out there, and maybe this guy is one of them, they conveniently want to overlook the nightmarish failures, the collapses, the chosen one turns frozen one that we've seen repeatedly in the playoffs. So I accept all the stats. I embrace all the stats. I just want to see him do it in the finals. And I know you've been right there with me all year.
Yo. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm 12 Kyle. Check this out. In this podcast, we're going to talk about basketball. More specifically, we're going to talk about LeBron James. And I have one simple question. Why don't you like LeBron James? I mean, I really can't figure this out. So I got a couple of ideas. I'll share them with you, and I'll tell you why you actually should like LeBron. So sit back, relax, we'll drop the theme music, and we'll get the podcast jumping. Let's get it. Welcome back. As I mentioned at the top, we're talking about why you don't like LeBron James. It's kind of funny when I think about it. Let me start by first saying that I'm a basketball fan, right? I mean, I've been a basketball fan. I've been watching pro basketball since 1980. So for some of you, I've been watching basketball long before you were even born. Does this make me an authority on basketball? Not really, but I know a lot, right? And I'm a fan of the game. Full disclosure, my favorite team isn't led by LeBron James. My favorite team is the Atlanta Hawks, hometown team. I live here in Atlanta. They were not my team growing up, but I will say that, since moving here in 1997, I decided to adopt the team and, said I was going to rock with the home team, and I've been rocking with them ever since. So just to let you know from the beginning, I don't really have any skin in this game. I will say that, growing up, particularly in the 90s, I was a huge fan of the Jordan-led Bulls. And I was also a huge fan of the Iverson Sixers. Now, those are two of my favorite players. Jordan, obviously, is my favorite player. Iverson is my second favorite player. But I come to this podcast basically telling you this because there's no bias here. I'm just going to give it to you straight, no chaser, as to why I think you don't like LeBron James. It's really interesting to me. I guess I probably should start with the obvious. Many of you don't like LeBron simply because, well, he's not on your team. I mean, that's just the truth. If even the biggest LeBron haters, if you will, if he were on your team, you would love his stinky draws. I mean, let's just keep it a buck. I mean, and so given the fact that he's not on your team, and given the fact that LeBron has, a couple of times, I guess, explored free agency, and he didn't select, the team that you're a fan of, that would be cause for some people not to like him. I know, he toyed with the idea, for example, of, going to the Lakers and going to the Knicks. Well, I mean, those are two of the biggest franchises in the NBA. And quite frankly, if LeBron ended up on either team, it would do crazy things for those cities. And subsequently, it did not happen. So it is what it is. But I mean, everybody wants the superstar on their team. As I mentioned, I'm a Hawks fan. There's no superstars on my team. So if LeBron woke up tomorrow and said, yo, I'm taking my talents to ATL, we would welcome him with open arms. I would personally drive to Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, pick him up, take him to Magic City, and have a ball. So it's not like, people don't want to see the greatest player on their team. Of course, I mean, who wouldn't? There's not one NBA fan listening to this podcast that would not want, I was going to say Michael Jordan, that would not want LeBron James on their team. Of course, everybody would want Michael Jordan on their team too as well, but we'll get to Mike in just a second. But, to see a guy like LeBron dominate the way that he has over his career, it goes without saying that, I think some of the reasons why people don't like him is simply because he doesn't play for you. So more often than not, given the fact that LeBron's not on your team, he's going to show up in your arena. It's going to be sold out. Your fans are going to boo him, and he's probably going to come away with the victory. He's just that good. So, unfortunately for some people, he's not going to end up on their team. LeBron's not going to end up on the Hawks. He's not going to end up on the Jazz. He's not going to end up on the Brooklyn Nets. So for those teams and the other teams, I mean, it is what it is. You just kind of got to deal with it. Another reason why people don't like LeBron, some of you don't like LeBron, is because he's quote unquote not clutch. Oh man, if I had $1 for every time I heard this, and the reason being is because a lot of times, particularly earlier in his career, people would talk about the fact that LeBron, would pass up game-winning shots for, an open teammate or something like that. And he would always be mentioned in the same breath as, Kobe and Michael Jordan. And I mean, really, at this point, to mention him in the same breath as those two is just going to start an argument. I mean, let's just keep it real, man. That's what it is. I've had people say, man, LeBron has proven time and time out that he can't close out games. He's not clutch. In the finals, he'll pass up open shots. At one point in time, the knock on him was that he was scared to go to the free throw line in close ball games. I mean, I've heard it all, but I also saw this guy, take the Eastern Conference Championship away from the Boston Celtics when he scored 25 consecutive points in double overtime. And, just a point of reference. I'm not going to get into LeBron's stats. You can Google his stats. I'm not going to get into his stats, his MVPs, his records, and all of this stuff like that. I mean, that's neither here nor there. But, when I look at that game, when I look at, what he did to single-handedly carry them and rally them from a 3-1 deficit against the Golden State Warriors, a team that had won 73 games, by the way. And, even the biggest LeBron hater will look at the title that LeBron won in Cleveland and they'll say, well, Kyrie hit the final shot. Really? I mean, if LeBron James doesn't block Andre Iguodala's layup, then there's no opportunity for that. And so, people just find a way. Again, that's why people dislike him. Again, they say he's not clutch. I don't know when you talk about clutch, I know what Kobe did. I know what Jordan did. I know what LeBron does. He's clutch. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's not. LeBron has the talent to, be a 30, 35 point scorer, but that's just not in his nature. His thing is to get other guys involved. He scores when he has to, and he can take over games, and we've all seen it. So, it is what it is. People just don't like it. And again, what do I know? I'm just a Hawks fan, but I know why people don't like him, and it's just crazy to me. What else? Oh yeah. Complaining. Man, LeBron complains all the time to the officials, and that's why people don't like him. You know what? You get no argument from me on this one because of LeBron's size. LeBron tends to flop from time to time, which flopping was never cool in the 80s. So I don't know. I think Vlade and those guys made it fashionable in the 90s. In the 2000s, it's just out of control. People just, like you're 6'8", 265 pounds. Nobody's running you over, right? So that doesn't happen. So, and I will say LeBron's flop game is off the charts. LeBron flops better than most people, but he does flop and he does tend to complain to the officials. Now, I will say this. In a slight defense of LeBron, it's hard to, I would imagine if you're an official, it's hard to, officiate a game when LeBron is playing because he's so big and so powerful that, he gets fouled a lot. Same with Shaq. Shaq got, you literally, if you called a foul every time Shaq got fouled, the game would never end. I remember a commentator saying that they had spoken with an official and they said the two hardest players for them to officiate were Allen Iverson and Shaq. And it's because of, the pounding and the punishment that they would take throughout a game. And I think the same goes for LeBron. I think he's that guy who, really is so much bigger and stronger than other people. Maybe, some of the touch fouls and the other fouls, that you give the other players, but LeBron is going to also get the calls too, because he's the superstar. He's the biggest star in the league. So in that saying, he also gets the call. But to be honest, yeah, LeBron does complain a lot. And I'm not, if you say your knock on LeBron is that he complains to the officials, no problem. You get no beef from me. I will say this much. Again, I said I've been watching basketball since 1980. There was no bigger person who complained more to the referees than Earvin Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson, you couldn't come around Magic without Magic, complaining and crying to the officials. Magic was one of the biggest crybabies when it came to officiating that I have ever seen in my life. And there's no knock on Magic. I love Magic, but it is what it is. And I'm just explaining this to you particularly for those who weren't alive or around to see Magic, or maybe you couldn't come outside, or maybe you didn't have cable. I don't know. But the point is that, superstars are going to get the calls. Superstars are also going to beg and cry for calls. To his credit, I don't remember guys like Larry Bird or Isaiah complaining about fouls, but, to the officials at, an alarming pace. LeBron does do that. I will say this much. So, again, so if you say your issue with LeBron is that he complains to the officials too much and he flops, I get it. I get it. I can understand and appreciate that. Let's see what else. Obviously, let's go ahead and deal with the elephant in the room. The decision. Not LeBron's finest moment. I will say this much. People will never get over the decision. Personally, I didn't have, and I talked about this on our Dead End Sports podcast. I didn't have a problem with his decision to go to Miami. Be clear, I didn't have any problems with his decision to go to Miami. What I did have a problem with is the fact that he did not have to go on TV to do it. And I understand the theory and the basis behind it, because they felt like, okay, if we go on TV, we do this for the boys club, we raise $1 million, which they did, it's going to look good and so forth and so on. But the moment he uttered those words,
LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Miami Heat. That was the conclusion you woke up with this morning.
That was the conclusion I woke up with this morning.
It was a wrap. It was a wrap. I mean, when he said he wanted to take his talents to South Beach, it was a wrap. I mean, there was nothing else that anybody could say. I mean, people were just literally shocked. I don't know if it's necessarily people were shocked It was some people that were shocked by the decision to go to Miami, but the fact that he made such a spectacle of it, a 1 hour program, again, it was to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club. And, I know some Knicks fans thought because it was being filmed in New York that he was coming to New York. That whole summer was crazy. And, again, because LeBron was a free agent, I have no qualms with him making a decision, an informative decision for him to leave. But the process of making the decision, I thought it was bootleg. And I think, he's going to always, that will always be a knock on him, I think, for fans. And to be honest, it was kind of weird to sit through an hour of TV of him and Holland, and it just, they could have made it. He could have sent a press release. I'm taking my talents to South Beach. He could have, there's a myriad of things that he could have done to, make it look better. It still wasn't going to leave. It still was not going to ease the pain from the Cleveland Cavaliers fans who, watched him play for those 6 or 7 years that he was there. But at the same time, I think it would have come off PR wise a little bit better. And then there was some who actually, their thought on the decision was, well, LeBron couldn't handle being the man for the Cavs, so he left to go join 2 other superstars. And that narrative, I get it, but at the same time, would I have done it? Probably not. But at the same time, I get why LeBron did it, because if LeBron does not leave Cleveland and he stays in Cleveland and he keeps coming up short, he would be where we deem Carmelo Anthony, a great player, but can't get over the hump. And when you take a team to the finals and your point guard is Eric Snow, go look at some of those Cavs teams those early teams that he went to the finals with. He went to the finals with some bums. So, I get it. I wouldn't have done it. I understand his decision to leave. The decision to leave wasn't the issue that I have with LeBron. The decision, the spectacle, I have a huge problem with, because it didn't have to go down like that. And it was always a bad look for him. So, and the theory of, him needing other players. And then, of course, you had these old players coming out, Jordan and Pippen. Well, I would have never left to go play with other superstars. Magic said he wouldn't have never left. Okay, maybe. But here's the thing that people lose sight of. In the 80s and 90s, free agency wasn't what it is now. The reason why you had those Laker teams of the 80s that were dominant, those Celtics teams that were dominant, those Pistons teams and the Bulls in the 90s, the reason why those teams were dominant is because guys signed 6, 7, 8-year contracts. So you pretty much had the same team coming back each year. There was no situation where you signed a 1-year deal and then you could leave and go play for someone else. Free agency wasn't what it was. So again, I don't know necessarily if Jordan, who was people kind of tend to forget, and I hate to throw Jordan in this conversation, but for this point, I will make this. Jordan, prior to 1991 winning his first title over the Lakers, he was just known as a scorer. And the knock on him was that he was a scorer who could not make his teammates better. And so, that's what the knock on him was. So if Jordan never wins a title, he would be highly scrutinized and highly criticized, just as LeBron was. So, I get it. So if that were the case, and let's say it's 1990 and Jordan just got bounced out of the playoffs by the Pistons, does he take his talents to another team if he could? It's very possible. I don't necessarily know that he wouldn't, particularly if a team offered him a lot of money, because at the time, Jordan was only making, and I shouldn't say only, but he was only making like $3 million from the Bulls, but he was pulling in like another 10, 15 million off the court. So, Jordan his bread wasn't buttered on, his basketball contract financially per se. So we don't know what would have happened. But again, the point that I'm trying to make is that free agency wasn't what it was back then. So I don't know that Barkley wouldn't have bounced. I don't know that Patrick Ewing wouldn't have bounced. I don't know that Magic wouldn't have bounced. So it's easy to say Bird, McHale. I don't know if those guys would have stuck around, particularly if they weren't if they weren't winning. So I digress. Let's see. Another reason why people don't like LeBron is the obvious, and I just spoke of the elephant in the room, the the decision. The other obvious is that LeBron is the biggest threat to Kobe and MJ. MJ meaning Michael Jordan. People don't want to hear that. I think some of the biggest detractors from LeBron James are Kobe stans and Jordan stans. And I mean, you probably know who you are, so I don't need to point you out through this podcast. That's what it is. I mean, I think if you look at it pound for pound, I think that, Kobe Bryant is a phenomenal player, one of the greatest players to ever play this game. But that being said, I don't think that Kobe Bryant is better than LeBron James. Now, the first thing people will say, well, Kobe's got the rings. He's got more rings than LeBron. And granted, he may finish with more rings than LeBron James. That is very, very possible. I'm not saying that it could not happen. The way that it looks, if I had to put money on it, it looks like Kobe's going to finish with more rings. But it really depends on where you define and where you put that bar, if you will, as far as rings are concerned. Because, until Jordan came and got his six rings, nobody was talking about rings like that. Jordan was the one that started this ring talk. So really, you could blame Mike for this. Nonetheless, but yeah, Kobe fans really don't like LeBron because LeBron, I think, was better than Kobe. And, for the better part of Kobe was kind of on the downside of his career these last few years, and then he ultimately retired. But LeBron was better than Kobe. Skill-wise, LeBron was better. Now, Kobe is a phenomenal scorer. I don't think LeBron will ever be the scorer that Kobe was. But just pound for pound, ball for ball, yeah, LeBron was a better player. Not by much, but LeBron's a better player. I can't really say that LeBron is better than Jordan skill wise, but if you said that he was, I'm not gonna argue with you. I think you could make a case for it, and you could make a case for Kobe being better than LeBron. I could disagree, because I don't think Kobe was better than LeBron, but I will say this much. I'm not gonna argue with you, because I think you can make a valid case for that. Now, if your case is, well, Kobe's got 5 rings and LeBron's got 3, then no, that's not a case. That's what it is. He's got 5 rings. But no, I think, the people who really don't like LeBron, that's where, they can hang their hat on. And again, it's a lot of them are Kobe stans. A lot of them are Jordan stans. And as much as I love Mike, first of all, I don't think you can compare the 3 men, first and foremost. But at the same time, LeBron's talent, it is what it is. And I think you can, even as a Kobe stan, even as a Jordan stan, I think you can appreciate who LeBron is and what he's done to the game and how he plays the game. If you understand and love basketball, I think you can sit and watch in appreciation. At least I do. I don't know what you guys are looking at, to be honest. And I'll say this. There are some reasons why you actually should like LeBron. First and foremost, LeBron gave Cleveland some of their best years. And at the time of this recording, he's currently playing for Cleveland. I don't know what's going to happen, in this offseason. But I will say this much. LeBron gave Cleveland some great years, and Cleveland can't deny that. Even his first trip or his first go around with Cleveland, those are some great years as far as basketball. As I mentioned, I've been watching basketball since 1980. Cleveland, for the better part of my life, sucked. I mean, they had a couple good years here and there, but on the real, Cleveland sucked. So I think, anybody associated with the city of Cleveland, the state of Ohio, they should be happy and glad and proud that he's done that. And I think us basketball fans can appreciate what he's done for that city. So yeah, that's one reason why I think you should like LeBron. Another reason why I think you should like LeBron is that, just for me, on the outside looking in, I think LeBron is a good dude. LeBron seems like the kind of guy, other than the little social media passive aggressive stuff that he does from time to time, which I really don't like. He seems like the kind of guy, at least from what I get in interviews and things of that nature, he seems like the kind of guy you would want to hang around, right? As I mentioned, I'm a huge Jordan fan. Jordan's not the kind of guy we want to hang around. Like, Jordan seems like an asshole, right? And Kobe seems like an asshole too. And I'm not going to hang around assholes, just to be honest. And, like LeBron seems like the kind of guy you want to go get a drink with and bug out with. I never got that vibe from Kobe. Kobe seems like much like a loner. And Jordan, like I said, Jordan has his inner circle, and I've heard enough stories about Jordan. Like, no, even as big a fan of Jordan as I am, if I saw Jordan on the street tomorrow, I wouldn't go ask him for an autograph or anything. I might not even say what's up, just because he's just like that. But I loved and appreciate what he did for basketball. And I will say this about LeBron. He seems like a very good and genuine guy. I've been impressed with, loyalty that he's maintained with his friends, not so much his basketball teams, but his friends. When you look at his friendship with a guy like Maverick Carter, guys, he was tight with since high school, and these guys, Maverick and some of the other guys are like they're his business partners, and these are his brand and their business acumen. They came in this together. And, he's made them multimillionaires. And, it's not like they're just some, yes men or anything like that. These guys are really, really legit guys. And, LeBron, man, he's maintained and seems like he's been the same guy since like forever. I don't know how many people. He is the only athlete that I can think of in my generation, right, that has, was given the praise and the accolades at such a young, early age, and actually lived up and exceeded the expectations, which is really, really hard to do. You can't put most kids on the cover of Sports Illustrated at the age of 16 and dub them the chosen one, and then they, skip college, go straight to the pros, 25-5, first NBA game, and LeBron has been as good as advertised, if not better than, what people think. And I mean, like, the guy goes out, averages 27, 7, and 7, and he makes it look easy. He makes it look easy and effortless. And he's been with the same girl, his girlfriend, Savannah, who he later married, now married to. They have 3 kids, so we haven't heard about the scandals of LeBron having side kids and, getting jammed up with drugs, anything like that. So he's been, for lack of a better terms, a good role model and a great family man. I really like that. He's really involved with his kids and stuff. And so I think that's something that you should like about LeBron. One of the other things I think you should like about LeBron is his philanthropy and his willingness to speak out on social issues. And I hate, and this will be the last time I bring Jordan and Kobe up, but this is something that they never did. Not to say that they didn't have any type of, philanthropy on their end, but I know for a fact that Jordan hardly ever spoke up on any social issues. Of course, it was a different day and time, but at the same time, man, LeBron really has exceeded expectations as far as what he's done on that end, and he's come up in the social media era. I don't know necessarily if Jordan could have handled living in the social media era. But something as simple or as dedicated as, promising a graduating class of high school freshmen, if they graduated, that they could and would get scholarships to college. And he's going to take care of that. Opening a school, he's going to do that. Things like that. I think those things far exceed, for as much as he's compared to Jordan, I think he far exceeds Jordan in that aspect. And again, his willingness to speak out on social issues, whether it be black on black crime or, police killing black men, in the streets, calling the leader of the free world a bum, which he is. I love it. And I don't think, a lot of times you have guys who are really trying to protect their brand. LeBron he isn't like that. He's one who is actually going to do what it is that he wants to do, and I admire that. And lastly, man, one of the reasons why I think you should like LeBron is that the obvious. He's a great player. He is one of the best players to ever do it, regardless of what you think about him or where you rank him or anything like that. He is arguably one of the best players to ever lace up a pair of basketball sneakers. Now, where you put him on your list, I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest. And I'm not really here to put LeBron on the list because I think that stuff is usually left for when they decide to hang him up. And, he's clearly got more years of basketball left in him. But yeah, he's one of the best to ever do it. He's one of the best of his generation, and he'll go down as such. And I think ultimately, there's a lot of reasons that you could like LeBron. I understand why some people don't like LeBron, but I pretty much laid it out. And, if you listen to this podcast and you still don't like LeBron, you might be a low bottom hater. Thanks again for checking out the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I'm your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5 G's.